Hey, and welcome back to the Journey Beyond podcast. On today's episode, we'll be diving into an incredible interview with a really good friend of mine, Jimmy Diallo, into the world of cybersecurity and how your personal information and your protection online is in our nowadays society at risk. So Jimmy is actually a professional cybersecurity hacker and in the process of developing himself in that field of being able to help people throughout all different domains to protecting their personal data and protecting your privacy at all costs. So today's interview, I would say, is a very technical one. It's one that I'm not much versed in, but I loved the talks and the conversations that Jimmy and I had throughout our good 1.5 hour episode. So if you are interested in that type of topic, today's episode will be for you. So let's dive right into today's episode with Jimmy Diallo. And if you haven't yet let's make sure that if you haven't yet and you're not yet subscribed to the Journey Beyond podcast on YouTube, on Spotify and Apple Podcast, that you go over to the platforms right now, subscribe and leave a little review. That would help this podcast to thrive and to just be seen by more people out there and get the message out that should be heard. So without further ado, let's dive right into today's episode with Jimmy Diallo. Born ready, Jimmy. You were always born ready. What's up, my man? How's it going?
Good, man. Very good. Very good.
Bro, it's been a minute since we've been trying to set this thing off, haven't we?
Yes, and it failed here and there, but thankfully we're now finally there.
Hey, there is never a too late. There is just a right on time. And that right on time is happening right now, Mr. Jimmy Diallo.
Hey, the man with the big words, as
the
usual.
Man with the big words. And the man with the big brain on the other side here. So how are you doing, my man? How's life?
I'm very
How are
good.
things?
Life is good. Working hard every day, but life is good. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the journey.
And I've been watching you, man. I've been watching your development. I've been watching your journey, man, and I'm very impressed into the person that you're turning into at the moment. I think it's very admirable if people find a skill set, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. When people find their passion on what they're interested in, of just like going at it. Not having a plan B, of just saying, all right, fuck it, I got to do what I got to do. And,
absolutely.
Then you see the progress in people. And I've been seeing your progress over the last 12 months since you've been back in Luxembourg. And amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a grind. It's a lot of discipline, but man, the results talk for themselves, man. I cannot
100%. And I mean, without cutting any edges, why don't you give the audience a little introduction about who you are? Because I mean, people in Luxembourg, they know Jimmy, right? They know Jimmy Diallo. There's only one freaking Jimmy. Like, you go out in the streets with a Jimmy Diallo on a Friday night, and you cannot get from point A to point B, which is maybe 15 meters, without stopping 25 times. Like, yo, Jimmy, what's up, Jimmy? Yo, Jimmy, what's up? So Jimmy is quite known in Luxembourg, right? But for everyone else listening, even for your friends listening out there, who's the real Jimmy Diallo right now? Spit it.
The real Jimmy Diallo right now is just a guy that has kind of changed his ways into working hard all the time, a bit too much, staying low, keeping his mind low, and just focusing on his craft, I guess. But I used to live a bit everywhere, studied a bit everywhere, had a lot of fun. But
you sure did.
Life, yeah, I sure did. But life at some point kicks you in the face, and then you have to calm it down a bit and start working. And that's the path I'm on right now.
So if I may ask, what is it that you do?
So I do cybersecurity. So I work in, cybersecurity is a huge field, right? It's very vague. You could divide it into different sections, but essentially what I'm most interested and focused on is the offensive side of security. So it's what you would call hackers, basically. I know the term hacker has a bad rap. Bad rap. People imagine the guy with the hoodie in the basement, but essentially there's different types. There's the guys that do bad stuff, there's the guys that do good stuff, and there's the one in between. And I focus on learning what the bad guys do so that I can help companies protect
That's
their
incredible.
stuff.
I gotta say, I think on my most watched list on YouTube in 2022, can you guess what type of videos, now relating to your topic, can you guess what type of videos were my most watched videos on YouTube? I spent hours digging through them.
Wow.
I'm only gonna say Scam Baiter.
Oh yeah. That
Bro,
guy's.
I've been spending. For those of you who don't know, it's like there are these incredible humans on YouTube, and one YouTube channel is called Scam Baiter, and those guys are professional hackers, and they go after those scam call centers in India, and they absolutely destroy them from the inside out.
I know the one.
It's so
hilarious.
funny. It's so funny and entertaining, but I mean, it's real stuff happening there. But I've spent hours watching those guys, just those other guys on the other side. You motherfucking asshole! I'm gonna kill you. You know?
No, there's one video in particular that is just beyond hilarious. I'll send you the link. Of it's basically these scam calls, and they want you to go to a shop and buy Amazon vouchers. Just talking about this one, it makes me laugh already. They want you to buy these vouchers, but not redeem them.
No.
They call elderly people, and they want these people to give them the voucher by tricking them.
Bro, it's crazy.
Oh man, and the guy knows exactly what he's doing, right? And so he has a $500, which in India, I guess, is a lot of money. Well, no, I know. And he just redeems it multiple times, and the guy at the other side of the line just loses it. And it's
bro, it's crazy, because I've did a little bit of digging into that type of in that type of field, and I watched some documentaries about it, or like, because that topic is becoming really prevalent nowadays, especially because they talk a lot about the UK, right? But I guess it's all around the world. And I've watched some interesting documentaries where they said in 2020 until 2020, the scam bait call center industry was making worldwide around $300 million in revenue, right? From 2020 when COVID started until 2023, this has become
a couple of connection. Oh, okay.
Better now?
I kind of lost you for a second. I don't know what happened. Until 2023. No, just continue.
So from 2020 until 2023, this industry, because of COVID, and we've been all, just sitting at home, we've not really been able to go anywhere. This has turned into a $4 billion industry worldwide.
Yeah, I bet.
Bro, this is insane.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So now my question to you, Jimmy. I mean, we're not talking about call center scams, because that's not what you do, right? Even though you did work in a call center, right? But that's another stuff. that's another story.
Way to put me on the spot there. God, no, that was.
You're my homeboy. You're my homeboy. So of course I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you expect?
These 2 months, man. But listen. There's a lesson in everything you do. I honestly believe 100%. That. And that call center, although it was not at the highest point of my life, let me say it like that, it was great fun. And I learned quite a lot of things, there's a lesson in everything. So,
bro, there's a lesson in everything, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus, I think one thing that I've learned, before I get into the question that I have for you, one thing that I learned regarding these types of jobs, because I've worked from the age of 14 onwards every single summer, usually in different jobs, right? And I've chose different jobs nearly every single summer from 14 years on. Why? Because I wanted to make sure, one, to get a little bit like physical experience. So I did everything from roofing over to sanitation, over to building houses, literally brick by brick, over to working in these recycling centers, over to literally cleaning recycling centers, which was probably the worst part of the job that I did.
Yeah,
it's bro, the smells that you get there is like otherworldly. But like everything that this taught me is so beautiful, because I've learned what I don't want to continue doing in my life.
Absolutely. That's the thing. That's the thing. I
100%.
always worked every summer and every weekend. Actually, I continued working in pubs. My parents also, from a very young age, always told me, you have to start working and make your own money. We don't have a tree in the backyard growing with money on there, so you have to make it.
100%.
And so yeah, I did I worked in back in the day in the hospital and in the recycling part of the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So for 2 weeks, all I did was go through the hospital and get cardboard, split it up, and throw it away for 2 weeks, all day.
Amazing.
And another time, I worked in the kitchen of a hospital, that same hospital, and that is not something I would ever want to do again.
Bro,
because,
kitchen work,
bro. I had to do washing up for 3 days. Was my just washing up. It does not stop in a hospital. The plates keep coming.
Well, I think after like a month of doing washing dishes, you could apply for Aquaman 3, like with your hands being completely obliterated. You know,
no, it's really bad. It's really bad. But anyway, yeah, lessons in everything, and the man I am today because of these jobs. So
right, and I think you had to go through those jobs to find like what you really don't want to do, and you had to find out on the counterpart like what it is. Then if this is not it, what do I want to do, right? And I guess that led you into that field. So now being in that space, right, we're talking now cybersecurity, we're talking now, you know, a rapidly evolving digital age, right? From your professional standpoint, if I may call it like that, because you do have a certain type of experience, right? I could call you a professional. Maybe in your space you would be called differently, right? But that's, I guess, all a matter of perception. But I guess from a point of view that someone that doesn't know much about cybersecurity or about pen testing, what you do, right? What are some of the most pressing risks and vulnerabilities that you see emerging in our increasingly digital society? I guess that's a big one to start with, but it's What's your take on that?
Because right off the bat, like I'm thinking, literally, the first thing that came to my mind is trust, especially in the age of AI. It will. We used to grow up in a world where we were told by our elders, don't trust everything you read on the internet, right? Well, now it's going to become assume that it's fake. This is a fundamental change. So you won't know what to trust. You won't even know how to trust your own eyes. And I think that will become a very, very, very big risk, because there's people on streams, Twitch, streaming as a certain character, and it's AI generated. So it could be a girl being a guy, and or the other way around. It's you do not know what to trust anymore. So that's a big thing. Yeah, for sure. Trust.
Trust. And like touching on that point, I've recently heard in an interview that now as well, like with this emerging field of AI, right, of being able to kind of create music, make songs, replicate Drake songs, and just, you know, entire albums can be created without an actor or an artist actually like entering the studio. You can have entire movie industries, right? Like, how can you solve this type of problem? Because if AI is this omnipresent, godlike thing that has the ability to do anything, what is the response? What is the purpose for us humans then in this world if this can be taken over? And like, who is it? Who is to stop this?
Yeah, I don't know if we will ever be able to. Once that event horizon hits, do you know the concept of the event horizon?
Please elaborate.
So I don't want to say it wrong, but basically, when you have a black hole, the event horizon is the line past which you do not see. You don't know what's on the other side, and there's a really, really interesting documentary called "Do You Trust This Computer?" And in it, you have a couple of big names in the AI world, tech world. Elon Musk makes his presence in the documentary, and they say that with AI, once the general artificial intelligence, which is an AI system that is smarter than man and therefore smarter than every man combined, once that is reached, we do not know what comes past that event horizon. Once that line is crossed, we don't know. And he makes a very, very interesting analogy that I keep bringing back to friends when I talk about this topic. It's, you know, when you're building a road, right? And there's an anthill where you want to build the road. well, we don't hate ants, but we're building a road. So goodbye, anthill. He says it exactly like this. And it's
Wow.
literally that. We don't know what the AI system will have as its goals, and it will be absolutely out of our control, I believe. So it's a we'll see.
Why do you think then? Because it kind of reminds me of a different time period, as the time period that we're in right now with artificial intelligence reminds me of a different period. If you think back into the 1960s, the moon race, what similarities come up when you compare now the race for this governmental AI and who brings out AI first, who optimizes it like for the best highest functionality. Like, it brings a lot of references back to the moon race, right? Back in the days, it was not about it was at a certain point, it was not about human growth and human potential. It was just about who has the bigger balls, like who lands on the moon first. So I feel
exactly.
that at the moment, this type of race that we're in, it's just out of hand, because companies, they are just improving, like ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 3.5, ChatGPT 5 coming, right? Gemini, Bard, like all of these different AI protocols coming into play. Like, I'm wondering, where are the legal grounds for that? Like, what are the ethical grounds behind that? Like, how far can you get it out of control before someone has to say, like, well, guys, maybe we should take it a step back, maybe.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Bringing it back also to cybersecurity, we often build systems with a certain interest behind them, which is the bottom line. So when a social media platform is built, you want to make money at some point, or when big companies are built, they're usually built to make money. And as the interest usually doesn't change, and you build and you build and you build, and therefore the complexity of that system that you're building becomes more and more and more. And it usually takes time for the cybersecurity or any security to follow up on that, So as you said, it's definitely a race, but who's protecting all of this? That will always follow. And the risk now is, how quickly will it have to follow, and will we be able to follow up? It's like repairing a plane while it's flying,
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And if I'm thinking about if I'm thinking about Microsoft buying off ChatGPT, and we actually have Bill Gates on the board of like an artificial superpower like that, building or repairing a plane while it's flying doesn't sound very fun to me in my head right now.
yeah, I don't know. These topics, like with the AI race. I mean, I am not in any way, shape, or form too expert on exactly what is happening with AI. I use it to optimize my workflow quite a bit. Actually, as we are talking right now, I have my subtitles for my next video being corrected by ChatGPT. So I use it a bit to optimize my workflow, and there's interesting tools coming out every day. But as of the intricacies of where this is all going, I don't know if anyone really knows what we're building here. It's definitely a race, and we'll see. We live in a very exciting time.
We live in a very exciting time, but
Absolutely.
let me knock onto that right away, because you are the type of person, when I first found out about ChatGPT, you were already like miles ahead. You were like, bro, you couldn't have your own buddy just like doing all of the shit for you. And I was like, I'm starting with, hey chat, how you doing? Right? So you've been like way further in that game. So why don't you break down a little bit how people can actually, people meaning how you are using AI for your own advantage, and how it can actually help you optimize, outsource, and kind of like professionalize the stuff that you do, right? So shoot on that, because I'm really curious, and I think a lot of people listening out there as well, because I'm using ChatGPT for example, show notes, or like getting down questions for podcast episodes. But I think you can do way more with it, as you are doing, right? So why don't you break that down for us?
Yeah, in the very beginning of when it came out is when I really saw the brilliance of the Twitter sphere, the hacker Twitter sphere, because you really could see how these people are wired different. As soon as a new system comes out, they try to break it. They try to see how can you manipulate it to do exactly what I want. And with ChatGPT, it was kind of the same, and it has now morphed into something official, kind of prompt engineering, basically. So if you take these systems, you know, and if you know exactly how to ask them what you want, the result, the output that you get becomes much more refined and precise. And so I'm in the very beginning, I was pretty good at that because I kind of quickly understood how to do that. But this has now gone way beyond what I do. I mean, I've kind of fallen behind. And that's the thing. It goes so fast that it's very hard to keep up. But what you can do, what is very interesting, is this guy called Daniel Miessler. He was he is one of the biggest characters as far as I know and I'm concerned in cybersecurity. If you do any type of pen testing, you use, and this is a quick divergence from my point, but if you use any type of brute forcing where you try loads of different words until it works, I'll explain that more in detail in a second. These sets of word lists are from a repository that you can find online from Daniel Miessler. So he was the guy that made that repository. So he's a big guy, basically, to say. He's a big guy in cybersecurity. And immediately as he saw the scale that AI, the potential of it, he switched over from cybersecurity to kind of AI. He still does cybersecurity work, but he now is fully immersed in AI. And he developed a tool called Fabric. And this, my friend, is incredible. Also, that I will link it to you.
Please.
And yes, it's incredible. So what you can do essentially is you link the API of your ChatGPT. So basically, the API, you take, there's a key that allows another program to use certain functions from X program that allows it. That's what an API basically does. And so you take the API key from ChatGPT and you give it to Fabric. And Fabric is essentially loads of different tools that Daniel Miessler created together with ChatGPT, and they just do various tasks. So for example, you can take a video, any type of video on YouTube, and give it to Fabric, and it will, and you will use the tool, I think it's called Wisdom. It's called Wisdom. It will immediately spit out the main points of the video, all the wisdom that can be taken out of it, the studies that kind of support the things that are being said, as well. It does it all immediately, automatically. It's unbelievable. And this is just one of these tools. And so Fabric is a framework, so to say.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of tools being added every day, and AI, it's just mind-blowing how many things you can do. But what I do with it is quite simple. I help it to, for example, when I record a video, I have a software that catches what I say, and sometimes it makes mistakes, so I take those subtitles, that text, and I feed it to ChatGPT. Or what else do I use it for? Any type of programming stuff. When as a pen tester, you have to look at code rather often. So I do not know all coding languages, nor am I a particularly good developer or coder. So I just have it kind of explain the concept to me. What else do I use it for? I have basically, I take a lot of notes when I everything I'm learning in cybersecurity, in hacking, everything I learn, I write down, and it becomes kind of like a book of my knowledge.
That's cool.
And the reason why I'm doing that is because you cannot know every command that you have to put in by heart. That is impossible.
Sure.
Everyone has to have.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a workbook.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that the day will come when I can feed an AI system with that workbook. So I can give it all of the knowledge that I've ever acquired, and that will become a great help. So
Interesting.
So I use ChatGPT to optimize these notes, or to like kind of summarize certain points, some concepts, and
so it's pretty much your own little team of mini workers, of assistants that are just doing like the boring tasks, let's say, the necessary but boring tasks for you.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I use it to kind of just like help me with the things I don't want to do.
And I think this is where we have to draw a fine line, because in the beginning, what I did with ChatGPT for my podcast, right? Because I thought at a certain moment, okay, this AI just knows more than I do, so let him think for me. But I think this is where for example, I had to like draw a line pretty fast, because I was realizing like if an AI is drafting topics and drafting questions and everything for me, like where is my creative input? You know what I mean? So I kind of had to like down regulate there a little bit. It helps me a lot, because I mean, what it basically does is same for you. It just writes the show notes for me, the descriptions for me, like all of the stuff that would take so much time. Obviously, I do the uploading and I do the cutting for clips myself. If there at some point will be like an AI that is actually proficient enough to do the level of clips that I do, amazing. I'll probably use it too, because that would save so much time. But I think it's just a leverage, right? It's just a leverage for the time, which I can then use more responsibly for tasks that I will actually bring me further.
Absolutely. And it's only as smart as the one using it, so because it spits out a lot of garbage a lot of the time. So it spits out a lot of things that are wrong, plain wrong sometimes. And if you don't know, you'll just copy paste it. And so that's a fine line. And I've very quickly learned that too, that you cannot really just take it and bring it back. So
you can't rely on it 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
It makes sense.
So, but you can. What's interesting again with the point from the guys on Twitter, kind of like people that are known in the hackers scene, if I can call it that, cybersecurity industry, basically on Twitter, they break it. So as any other system, ChatGPT is bound by certain rules, and you can break out of them. That's essentially what the hacker mindset is. How do you get out of that box? It's the lasting quest to get out of the box.
Basically. Why would you want to get out of the box?
Because that's freedom, I guess.
Freedom for who?
Well, for you. I mean, you get a system. Let's go back to the days when the PlayStation 3. Actually, the reason why I would touch on this point is because I watched a documentary about it yesterday. There's this guy called George Hotz. Absolute genius. And he was the first guy to hack the iPhone and the first guy to hack the PlayStation 3.
Okay.
And the reason why he did it was not to do anything malicious. It was just to have the freedom to choose. Because the story behind it was iPhone, Apple brought out the device that was locked to AT&T, which is a telecommunication provider in the United States. But he had T-Mobile, and so he didn't want to change. He didn't want to change it. So what did he do? He jailbroke it. He broke out of that rule set that Apple gave him because he wanted the freedom to choose what he wanted to use his phone for.
Crazy.
And the same thing happened with the PlayStation 3. Same thing. It had been 3 years since the PlayStation 3 was released. And some fan of his, because his work at the time was already notorious, had sent him a PlayStation 3. And so he said, yeah, it's been 3 years. No one has hacked it. Can you do it? And so he made a blog post where he said, 3 years, this hasn't been hacked. Well, it's time to change that. And so he took a month and he did it. And he got sued by Sony and everything. And this is a whole different rabbit hole, but essentially it proved that the PlayStation 3 could be used as a gaming console or as a fully functioning computer with functioning parts where you could do anything on it. And that again is the part of freedom. If I have those rules, I can do what they say that I should do with those rules. But if I break out of the box, then I can do anything.
Play God a little bit.
You could interpret it like that. Yeah.
No.
There's a platform. There's a
I mean
platform I use a lot. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a platform I use a lot, which is called Hack the Box, and essentially it simulates. It's what I put in my videos as well. Basically, it's a simulated environment where you have a system that you could find in the real world, and the rule, the name of the game, the goal of the game is to break the box, to become root, which essentially, like you just said, is God permissions. You can do anything. That's the goal, and it's called Hack the Box. So yeah,
that's interesting.
Get out the box.
Hackers are people like a completely different kind of people, right? They live in a different world. They think differently. They work like they're anarchists at heart, right? It's like
I guess. Yeah, I guess.
They're anarchists at heart, like fuck the system. Let me just like break out of it, like virtually and physically. But I guess that's it's pretty freaking amazing. I think I told you about yeah, we had to talk about that. Like I think a couple of months back, I watched that documentary as well about the cyber bunker.
Yeah,
right.
I watched it. Great.
It's great, right? But the funny thing is, like, for those who don't know, there's like a documentary about a notorious cyber how would you call them? Like hacker group, right?
Yeah, they're
basically a hacker group that settled in from different parts of the world and came together. Because I live here in Germany at the border to France and Luxembourg, and Jimmy lives in Luxembourg too, right? And this hacker group with Dutch roots, with German and American roots, they settled close to Trier, which is around 40 minutes ago, and they actually bought a bunker. And that bunker notoriously became the cyber bunker, because those guys were, at the time, I think it was around like the 2004, 5.
Yeah, it was early 2000s. Yes, yeah.
They what was it, like one of the biggest hacks in the history until that time? They launched something like that. They had like this incredible large platform where they were hosting different people.
That's the
same as like a browser, right? I guess you can explain it a little bit better.
Yeah, so essentially what the cyber bunker did at the time, and they did a lot of things, but one of the main things is that they operated servers for any type of deep web websites, basically. So you've got the ClearNet, which is what we use every day, Google and stuff like that, and then you've got the deep web, which is 90% of the internet, by the way. Everything behind a firewall, everything behind a password is on the deep web, right? And then you've got the darknet, and the darknet is where you have the dark markets, the black markets, where you have the forums of hackers, where you have secret agents spying on you, where you have
pornography, child pornography, like pedophile rings, and so on and so on, like some nasty stuff.
All of the nasty stuff of the internet is kind of there, and they were hosting a lot of it. And as for hacking, especially, I don't really remember if they were also doing any types of hacks themselves, but they were definitely hosting servers that maybe hacking groups were using for their own architecture or.
And their moral compass was like anyone that wants to have a place on our server can have and do anything they want to do. And I think that was like the big problem there, because a large majority of it was like illicit stuff and illegal, like child pornography and so on and so on. So that's why it became like quite a big thing. And that was just like 40 minutes in that direction, right? So that's crazy.
Yeah, but there too, it's a fine line, because the idea behind it was just that they were a hosting platform. What then gets hosted is that your responsibility. That was the big thing, you know. They were providing the infrastructure for stuff to be hosted on their cloud, let's say, and what then gets done on there, they got done for. Of course, you can argue for those things, you know. It's like the Pirate Bay. Do you know the Pirate Bay?
Yeah, I know the Pirate Bay.
Yeah, exactly. It's these people. It's always the same type of people. The people that feel like the internet should be a free place, and then there is the box coming closer and closer and closer, and the people want to break out the box. That's
100%.
fundamentally what the hacker mindset is. It's the curiosity, and and yeah, but then there's loads of different ones.
But that's always like the interesting point where we have to draw conclusions. Is like I could put this example with AI up, right? I can put the same example up with Oppenheimer, right? The creator of the atomic bomb. Like, what was his intention? His intention wasn't to kill hundreds of thousands of people. His intention was actually a good one. Most recently, most probably, right? We're not 100% certain. I heard once in this interview a couple of days ago, I don't remember the German scientist's name, or I think he was Polish, I'm not quite sure, but there was this incredible scientist that discovered a mechanism how you can extract oxygen out of the atmosphere and turn it into nitrate to actually be able to function and make something work, right? This technique, this scientist discovered this and actually was priced the Nobel Prize for his work back in the 1920s. That same scientist, though, created I don't remember the chemical compound for that, but he was the same guy that created the gas that was used in the concentration camps, where millions
Zyklon B.
Exactly. So that was the same scientist who, on one hand side, created something incredible and beautiful, and on the other hand side, he created something that literally obliterated millions of people. So there again, who's to blame? Who would you blame? Is that person really to blame? Is like your invention itself has 50% chance of actually being either good or actually destroying the world with it. So who should be held responsible for that?
I don't know if you can really do it.
Super hard.
Like,
super hard.
I don't know. It's a super tough question. I mean, the tool will always be just the tool, and the one that wields it will have the responsibility how he wields it. It's the same
100%.
with AI, with a weapon.
100%.
I mean, a gun can be used for protection, but it can also be used
for killing people.
Yeah, exactly. So
100%.
The tool, and it's the one behind the one that wields the tool that yeah.
I 100% agree with you, and I think this again, like, putting a point to this and grabbing onto a different topic, which is quite interesting, and attacking it right at the root. When you say this, that we are responsible ourselves for the outcomes of our creations or inventions, or like our security itself. Talking about privacy, talking about security on your devices, talking about like actually not having a password that says my password is 1234 and just by lucky no one ever gonna find out. Like, let's talk in the fundamentals of privacy here, because I think it's a big concern to everyone, and we've had that conversation quite a lot, like you, Felix, and me. And your words, and I'm paraphrasing right now, is like literally everyone is fucked.
No.
Okay, and I make this a bold statement. Everyone is fucked. Why? Because I think in the age of AI, in the age of increasing digital innovation and enhancement, bro, like, I still, like, you opened my eyes beginning of the year when you asked me, like, okay, Tim, how many passwords do you use for all of your different accounts? And I was like, well, like 6. I was like, how many accounts do you have? Well, probably like 150. And he was like, bro, you are so dumb. You are so stupid. Those were your words, bro. But that's the point that I want to get to, because that's, I think, one of the most interesting and most resourceful points out of this podcast that I would love to get into with you, because you are someone that narrowed it up really much, and you helped me a lot in getting my security level done, right?
For sure.
Open it, my friend.
Yeah, for sure.
Pandora's box.
The thing about security is no one is sitting in their cave looking to get you. No one says, I want to hack Tim. No one does that. Unless you've done something bad and it's the government or whoever. No one really does that.
No.
So people go for the low-hanging fruit. And what I mean by that is they try whatever they will try on loads of people, and the ones with the worst security is where they attack, essentially. And simple things that you can do in your security make sure that you are not one of the low hanging fruit, And those are things like having good passwords. For example, like I'm looking at it right now, I have 922 accounts. Just accounts. And I know none of these passwords. They're all something, passphrases or like mumbo jumbo or whatever. And then the most important of all is that you have two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, so that when you log in, you don't only have your username and password, but you also have to double verify with your phone and, for example, a YubiKey, like another key. If you're into crypto, you will most likely use something like that. It's simple things that you can do to make yourself less vulnerable. And then in terms of privacy, just try to not share too much stuff. Like, for example, I try to limit, I don't have any social media, but like I try to really limit what I give out of myself, because we don't know the tools that will be there tomorrow and the information that is being scraped. And you often don't value what you have until you don't have it anymore. True. And the information you give out, you don't know how it will come back to bite you. So privacy is the fundamental thing. And security.
What would you say is the most commonly used password out there right now?
Oh, there's a list. This is known. It's password one. Yeah.
Let's Google it. Let's Google it.
Yeah. I mean,
can you pull it up?
Yeah, I can. Can I share my screen?
I don't know if you can, but you can just read them out. I think it makes it easier.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So now, ladies and gentlemen, come the most commonly used passwords, I guess, in 2024. And if yours is one of them, well,
yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, but I mean, if you use these passwords, you really, I mean, I can't help you. The Lord alone can help you. But the most common one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Wow.
And then the other one.
This is the most commonly used password
in 2024. Yeah.
In 2024, come on, dude.
Yeah, and then password, and then 1, 2, 3 till 9, and then admin. Admin, basically administrator, and a lot of let's say if you buy a router, now they don't do that anymore because they got called out for it. But a lot of companies that give you stuff, hardware, and when you set it up, they have a default password to make it easier for Mr. John or Mrs. Juicy, whatever, whoever, Max Mustermann. Exactly.
Max Mustermann.
Yeah. They make it easy for everyday people to use it. You know? And so the initial password and username is usually just admin, or admin password, or 0000. And then they hope that you change it. But
most people don't.
Well, yeah, because the password sometimes is also change me, literally.
So, change me.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, and I think people. This is like the thing. Instead of like making a little bit of effort, because I've done the same. Don't get me wrong. Like I've used parts of like my personal life that anyone could guess for certain softwares and parts where I was like, why did I use that? Like, for me, it's easy to remember, yes, but I guess that means that it's for anyone else to remember easily as well.
Yeah. I mean, most people's password, I can tell you right now, is a meaningful word, any type of words. That's okay. I'll make a point here. So watch me cook. So it will be a meaningful word, their dates of birth or something like that, 2 numbers, and then because they've had to change their password because the guidelines got stricter, they've had to add a special character at the end. So it's either an exclamation mark or an ampersand character or an @ or something like that. And that's the password for most people. And if that's you, brother...
Not anymore. Not anymore. Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't lie. In the past, it used to be, yeah. But exactly. I changed it all up again.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's why I said watch me cook, is I was talking before about brute forcing and these lists that Daniel Miessler made, among other things. Essentially, this is millions and millions and millions of passwords that have been used. So when a company gets hacked and all of their data gets stolen and sold on the dark market, those dumps get used to input into these lists. So these lists of passwords that are used to brute force are real passwords that are being used in the world. So the likelihood of them working is high. and then if those lists don't work, then you use a strong computer and try to literally brute force, which is you try every single letter until every single mix of letters and numbers, but that takes a long time.
Of course. I guess with AI, not that much anymore. I guess with quantum computing.
Exactly. That's the thing. With quantum computing, this is fundamentally
the problem.
A risk.
Yes.
Because,
so what should people do? I mean, you're the so-called on-called expert that I would call, right, in a situation like that, when it's like, Jimmy, my password Tim1234 is maybe not that safe anymore. What do I do, right? Okay. Like, what should people give them, like, literally, like you've done for me and for some other friends, give them the do's and the don'ts, bro. Like, what should you do? What should you watch out for? What are some, maybe some good tools that could be used that could actually potentially already save you from being hacked, or like your bank accounts being taken over, or granny's bank accounts being completely annulled. So what are some do's and don'ts here?
Okay, well, it starts with taking one Sunday, 3 hours of your day, and going on all of your social media accounts, all of them.
Like, whenever this episode is coming out, tomorrow is Sunday, so make sure you take those 3 hours, listen to the episode, and actually change something about it.
Yeah. So you take a few hours and you go on all of your accounts that you use a lot. And, first you download a password manager. And there's a few. There's different ones. Personally, I like Proton. Because Proton is a suite of tools. It has a VPN, it has an email service, Proton Mail, Swiss company. I like them. So let's say you use Proton, but there is also Bitwarden, which is, I think, cheaper and all free. Let's say you have chosen a password manager, and there's loads of videos that help you choose the good one. You take a Sunday, you take a few hours, you go on all of your accounts on social media, and you change your password. And then you use the extension that will come with Proton Pass or Bitwarden, and you let it generate a password for it, for the account. And so then it saves automatically. And then you go in the settings still, and you go on multi-factor authentication, and then you activate it. And then you store that private key that it will give you. It will give you a private key that you have to input either into your phone's authenticator app, which people use Google. I wouldn't, but that's a different topic. And you keep the private key. This is very important. You write down the private key, and you input that into your now these days, the password manager also does that for you, and then you have double security already. So that's the first thing everyone should do.
So first of all, get a password manager, get it to 2FA locked in or multi-factor authentication. So you're already like 2-leveled deep secured. Okay.
Absolutely. For all of your accounts. And then stop clicking links you don't know where they lead to.
But they're interesting. But it's interesting, bro.
Yeah,
it's like, click here and win 0.5 Bitcoins, bro. That sounds appealing to everyone, bro.
Exactly. Come on. You have not won anything. Life doesn't just make you win 3,000 euros. There's no way. Don't click it.
Tell that to the granny that just clicked on the link and all of a sudden her bank account goes.
I don't know. Yeah, no, there's different techniques coming out every day, but it's just, what else can you do? What do I do, actually?
Yeah, what do you do?
I mean, I don't actually do too many things that are insanely safe. I use a VPN just like everyone, but that's the idea of a VPN keeping you anonymous is not really. The VPN kind of basically only masks you from your internet service provider. It changes your IP, and you can kind of change your location, whatever. If you watch on Netflix and you want to watch, yeah. So I don't really do that many things.
Okay.
If you're the kind of person that does do stuff that should be hidden, then I wouldn't do it on my computer. I would do it in a virtual machine, basically. But this goes technical level deeper, and I don't know if the viewers are among that. But I can explain. Basically,
go ahead. Explain it for a 6-year-old like me, for example. So I can then later, if I don't understand stuff, just go on YouTube or Google and ask, what you.
Yeah. So if you, let's say you want to go on the dark market, right? Just to see. Yeah. Just to see. You're just curious.
A cool evening with the boys on a Friday night, just like pulling up the laptop, me like, so what's there?
What is there? Exactly, because people do want to know, right? So you download a browser called Tor. And Tor is the onion router. So essentially the way it works is that when you make a request on the internet, you are the client, you send a request to a server, right? And that server then sends a response back to you. And with the onion router, when you send a request, it doesn't go directly to that server, but it goes to loads of different servers, and each one, like an onion, kind of decrypts part of the complete response. So you're essentially anonymous. Nobody knows who made the connection. So at no point in time does the server know who you are. They do know that you're there. It's not that you're invisible, but it's just you're anonymous.
Okay, gotcha.
Essentially, that's what Tor does.
Yeah.
So that's the actual anonymizing. The VPN doesn't do that.
Why did they choose the word Tor?
Tor, Tor. Why did they choose Tor? I don't know.
Tor as in like gate, maybe?
Could be. Maybe it was Germans that invented it. This is a very good question. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. Yeah,
gotcha.
let me look this up really quick.
Yeah. Because I always thought it's called Thor, like Thor, and I was like, why the fuck would you call it like the god of thunder and lightning?
All right, it's very stupid. I said why. Tor, it's the onion router. Yeah, because like an onion.
Wow, I imagined this to be much more interesting.
Yeah. No, it's like I explained. It's the onion routing, basically, because like an onion, it takes off layers of the response. And the onion router.
Interesting.
It's an acronym.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah. Getting back to the points. What can you do? Multi-factor authentication, strong passwords. Don't click on links that you don't know. Be careful with giving out information just on social media. Just be safe. Don't put too much stuff about yourself online. It's none of anyone's business. And
so in other words, we should watch out way more how we present ourselves. I think it's good in a certain 100%. Way if you want to be authentic and you want to talk about certain topics like I do here, right? But people only hear what they want to, like what I want them to know about me, right? Which is in a lot of cases, I do like to be open about who I am, but only my real friends know behind all of those things. And I think that's the main message here is like, you can be whoever you want to be as long as you don't give out your most private parts.
Absolutely.
That sounded wrong, but hey, never mind.
Pause. Yeah. No, I know what you said, so it's fine. Absolutely. No, it's just a thing about, maybe I am a bit more paranoid with these things. But
it makes sense. You should be. I mean, we're both entrepreneurs, we're both visionaries, we both want to create big things. So if we can't narrow in the first layer of security on our soon to be or future to be empire or business or whatsoever, well, why should we even start it then, you know?
Exactly. If you plan to do big things, then you should make sure that the foundation is strong. And being private, keeping your stuff safe is part of that foundation.
Another question that popped in, because you know me, I like to listen to a lot of Joe Rogan episodes, right? Joe Rogan is like my go-to podcast, and he's just the guy for me. He just interviews a bunch of different people, right? And I think it was in last week's Tuesday's episode with two comedians. They talked about the topic, which became quite prevalent, right? AI, artificial intelligence, regulations, like what happens if that thing becomes like a sentient being, like a god, right? And just kind of like dictates. We turn into this Terminator type of movie thing. But one thing that most people do not understand, or like that's a critical point that I would like to view or like to look at, is like IoT, the Internet of Things, right? Is like nowadays we can literally, like, our homes have become AIs themselves. Like, hey Siri, I'm on my way home right now. Please turn on the lights, regulate the temperature, turn on the oven, and check what kind of foods are missing from my fridge, right? It's simple, but it's freaking scary, man. Like, I don't know how you think about those things, but there has to, like, talking about hacking, talking about AI, talking about, like leaving that sandbox, like creating something that we are not really aware of what it can become, or we know what it can become, but we don't want to stop it because that would mean regression instead of progression.
Absolutely.
What's your point on the Internet of Things, and what are some of the major technical implications that we should consider to kind of like safeguard us here? Because if I remember this one movie, and I think it was a Disney movie or was it? What was that series called that made like those controversial episodes?
On Netflix.
Yeah, on Netflix. Black
Mirror.
Black Mirror, exactly. And they had one episode where on the Internet of Things, all of a sudden, like if you were not a good, law-abiding citizen, your refrigerator and your oven tried to kill you, right? I mean, that's the extreme of the version, but what's your point on that, Jimmy?
I could. We could
go
talk
ahead.
about
Go
this
ahead.
for days.
We're only in 1 hour, man. We're only in 1 hour.
Yeah. So the thing is, convenience and security are usually negatively correlated. So
Makes sense.
as one goes up, the other one goes down.
Makes sense.
Usually.
Makes
I don't
sense.
want to coin this as a fact, but it generally tends to be like that.
Mhm.
And we like convenience. And so we want all our devices to be connected, and we want our kitchen to heat, our windows, our blinds to come down as we come home, and we want the pot on the toilet seat to heat up as we go to the toilet, because we just want to automate. Great feature, Japanese toilets are in 2070. But anyway,
the ass sprinkles, the butt sprinkles.
The problem with these things is that they are not secured well enough, and they are all connected on your internet. So there is this website that you can type in. It's called Shodan.
Shodan?
Yeah,
SHO. Yeah.
SHODAN.
Okay.
It's basically a search engine. It's like Google, but it's a Google for the Internet of Things.
Ooh.
Yes. And if you do open source intelligence, which is OSINT in cybersecurity, you do that a lot, especially on the defensive side of things. You can essentially Google, let's say, webcams, and I'm doing it here, like right now. I can just type in webcams, and it will give me all of the webcams in the world that are connected to the internet. All of them.
Okay.
It will. Yeah. Look. I can find 1,593 cameras in the United States that are connected to the internet, and a lot of them are connected on. In computers, you have different ports. Every system listens on a different port. It's like a service port. It's like an actual port. So you have different docks, and each dock has a different use. So there's a different service. And the internet, let's say your browser, websites, they usually connect on ports 8080, which is HTTP, or port 80 most often, or 443, which is HTTPS, where you have the log. And these are the websites you should go in, by the way. back to these Shodan, all of these webcams, let's say, are not on ports 443 secured. They are on ports that you can very easily hack. And I suspect that this is how some of those guys on YouTube that hack into the Indian call centers do it, essentially.
Gotcha.
Their security themselves is not very safe.
Yeah.
And so it's quite easy. I don't know exactly how he does it, but I suspect it's something like that. But anyway, your webcam is the same. These webcams is the same concept as now your refrigerator that is connected to the internet, or your heating that is connected to the internet. What are the protections in place to safeguard someone from the outside hacking into your fridge? Because if he's in your fridge, he can do a lateral movement to everything else connected in the network. And that's the big risk. And then also, the Internet of Things is not just in our home. It will then also be the lights, the traffic lights, the critical infrastructure of your state. I mean, this is all under the protection of the government. But how well are these things connected and protected? Sorry. It's Internet of Things is a huge problem because it will, yeah.
So what do you think needs to change? Like, how do you think a regulatory body needs to step in and say, like, okay, we can actually put this into a frame? Is that even possible?
I don't think they know about this, and I don't think the motivation is there to protect all of this stuff because it costs money to do it. And who is going to do it? There's a huge lack of skilled labor in the field. That is a thing that you should definitely listen to as a viewer if you don't know what path to go in and you are kind of a tech person or interested in tech. There's definitely work to be done in cybersecurity. I mean, I implore anyone that maybe is choosing or is just going to university or whatever that has technical knowledge to go into cybersecurity. The cake is big enough for everyone, 100%. And there's a lot to be done.
Why do you think there is such a small number, let's say, a small community of people who want to get into it?
Why do I think?
Yeah.
It's actually not that small. It's grown, but it's hard. Because, okay, this has been a big debate in the last couple of weeks on LinkedIn, actually. Do you have to be technical to be in cybersecurity? My answer, for what it's worth, is no, you don't, but it helps.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I get what you're saying.
It helps to know how to use a computer to work in cybersecurity.
And to maybe not have a password that is admin.
Absolutely. But you don't necessarily have to be an absolute nerd to make it in cybersecurity. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We have a problem in skill in cybersecurity because people are too nerdy sometimes, because you need the human element as well. You need someone that can talk. Hey, I'm a nerd. Don't mock us. Hey, I wear it like a proud badge.
All
okay?
Right, it's 6P3 on 0030.
No, stop it. No, but
it reminds me of a Simpson episode. I'm sorry, I was just there.
The point is, you have to have that social element too. And why is it hard for people to go into cybersecurity? Because the awareness isn't there. People don't know what it is. They don't know about the field.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the field. You know how I got into hacking?
Tell me.
Because I was studying international relations. My path was towards politics and becoming an ambassador, actually. And it's completely different.
You would have been a stud of an ambassador, man.
I'm not too sure about that. But anyway, I'm not too sure about that. But anyway, you can see it was a social science, so I'm a social man. I'm a social person. But the change to cybersecurity was incredibly improbable. To show that it is possible, even as someone that studies completely something else. The thing is, I had a change of heart, let's call it that. And then I was kind of left with, what am I going to do now? and it was either languages or computers.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of weighed the different jobs that are here today and there tomorrow, because translation will soon, I don't know, there's not going to be that many translators needed.
No. Yeah, that's a floating job, definitely.
If you have headphones up that automatically translate to you what the other one is saying in Russian, well, what do you need a translator for if that's powered with AI
And
or
probably
whatever kind
you
of
need
system?
2 if you have a 1 hour seminar, 2 hours, right? It's
Exactly.
makes
So
sense.
you'll need exactly. So my options in languages were quite limited. I still love to learn them, and but
Mm-hmm.
job wise, that was not the way. So I started going into computers, and I
Mm-hmm.
started from scratch, learned like, I don't know, the basics of what you would learn if you did a computer science degree,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, how does a computer work and all of that, and just coding and stuff like that. I just dabbled with it. And then on YouTube, all of a sudden, I started seeing recommended videos about people hacking for money. And I'm like, what? I press on it. And what's the guy is called, one of the best paid hackers in the world. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
saw that video, clicked it, and they told me that you can hack companies legally and get paid for it. I was like, what?
Where can I sign up?
Sign me up, brother.
Right now.
Yeah, sign me up. So I was like, that's what I want to do.
And I can imagine the paychecks that you're getting from those companies, they're big baller paychecks, because if those vulnerabilities, they're probably worth billions of dollars.
100%.
They give you a percent of that.
Yeah. I mean, and you could argue they don't pay you enough, because the risk that you have
decreased, pretty much.
Decreased.
Regulated.
Exactly. Yeah. The vulnerabilities that some of these researchers find, if exploited maliciously, would bankrupt the company.
Mm-hmm.
Would eliminate them. Finito.
And there's like, here goes 300 euros. Thank you for helping us, sir.
Yeah, sometimes it's 20,000 euros, sometimes it's 100,000, 50,000, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's $50 or swag, a T-shirt. Here, thanks.
Here goes your Porty cookie. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, these vulnerabilities are then not very bad, or like the main point in that type of job, and this is another part of cybersecurity. This is called bug bounty hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite difficult, because inherently hacking is difficult, because the people that you are going up against, or that you are working for, have quite smart people that have built these systems.
Yeah.
So in its nature, what you are trying to break has been built by someone smart. So you have to be kind of better or think outside the box. So it's hard. And bug bounty hunting is therefore harder, because to find these very critical vulnerabilities in this public Facebook.com is hard.
Yeah, you probably have an armada of tech geeks that are on the other defensive side and trying to be like, all right, try to come at us, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you in your profession, because I think the topic of hacking is like such an interesting one, are you in your bounds of professionality allowed to explain what a typical hack into a company would look like? Is that something that you can disclose or talk about openly?
Sure.
Like what the steps are? Because how do you, because I know there's very offensive methods, there's very defensive, like kind of like in the shadow types of methods. Like how do you hack a company?
Yeah. It starts with reconnaissance, information gathering.
Okay.
Right? So there's different layers to it. And you have reconnaissance or information gathering, which is the first layer. And then you enumerate what you have found in that reconnaissance. And then you exploit what you have enumerated. I will explain more in detail, but these are the steps. Then you exploit, and then you enumerate again, and then you escalate your privileges, and that's essentially a circle, and you do that until you're the root or the administrator level. So essentially what you would do with the company is you research everything you can find about the company, everything, their mergers and acquisitions, the different IP addresses that they have. You go on sites like Showdown, you see if they have any types of things online. You do, for example, when you have facebook.com, this is called a domain. But what you also have is subdomains. So shop.facebook.com or I don't know, forum at .facebook.com. These are called subdomains. So you check for all of the different subdomains that these companies have, and it's usually thousands. And you check who registered the website. You check all kinds of information. You check who works for the company even. Maybe you want to go the phishing route, but that's illegal. Or everything you can gather on a website, on a company. Then once you have that, you start going one level deeper. You take, let's say, all of these subdomains and you enumerate what services are running on them. So like I was talking before with these ports, you find versions of tools that they have used to maintain these systems. Yeah. And maybe there is a version that is outdated. Oh, by the way, back to what we were saying before, another thing people can do to stay safe, update your stuff. When your iPhone tells you to make an update, do it. Simple as.
And that comes from someone who loves iPhones, right?
I really don't like them. But when your browser tells you to make an update, do it. But yeah, so you then enumerate
Bro, it's the story of my life. Sorry, I don't want to sidetrack on this, but I had to laugh now because in order for us to do this recording, right, on the platform that we're using, you need to have your Google Chrome updated. Bro, I kid you not, 60% of all the people on the 5 minutes before the interview was supposed to start was like, bro, my Google Chrome update, it says it's gonna take 3.5 hours. What does that mean? And I was like, bro, that means that you probably haven't updated it since 5 years.
And what did I say to you? What did I say to you to that point when
update it always directly?
No. When you said, because you said the same thing to me before, you sent me a message, make sure your browser is up to date. I don't know if you saw my answer.
Yeah.
But I said,
and you said respect me.
Exactly. I said respect me, bro. As if my shit was outdated, man.
You never know. You never know. You never know.
But back to the point.
Yeah.
You then enumerate everything that you have found and look for vulnerable versions or stuff like that. And then you try to exploit those. There's often just online techniques on how to exploit certain systems, vulnerable versions. And that's how you can bring down a company, I guess. It's an overview, but the methodology for hacking is usually always the same. You look at what you are dealing with. You look at the system that is being employed. You try to find out what version or what version of that system you're dealing with, and then you try to.
That's incredible. So at what end of the spectrum do you see yourself? Where do you see your path going in the space of cybersecurity? Because we've been through a lot of different angles right now, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going towards, and why? Because we've been through now. You definitely do have, as we've spoken about before, you do have, I guess, the technical know-how to a level and degree that seems quite sufficient already. You do definitely and certainly have the social skills, so you, in my eyes, would be a perfect person to spread more words out there, right? So where do you see yourself in that space?
For the immediate future, my path is definitely on being the best type of hacker that I can be. Pen testing. I want to become really, really good at it. And this is a slow, laborious, and tedious process, but it's an incredible journey
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a lot of hard work, and these things are hard. But if you just do it, you get better. So that's my path right now, just becoming a pen tester and being a really good one.
That's incredible.
And then after that comes red teaming, which is, so you have pen testing where you look for all vulnerabilities, and then you have red teaming where you essentially simulate an advanced persistent threat, or where you simulate a malicious entity trying to get to a certain goal. It's a bit different. The goal of the exercise is different. A red team comes from the army, the military. You have a blue team and the red team. The blue team are the defenders, and the red team are the attackers, and they test. And the red teams usually try to employ a lot more stealth than the pen testers. They try to obfuscate, hide their tracks. They try to evade firewalls, and it's a lot more elite stuff.
Gotcha.
So that's the next step. That comes after being a pen tester for a couple of years. I definitely want to go into red teaming.
That's incredible.
And then there's a lot to be shared in terms of awareness in here in this country or anywhere really. I have kind of a responsibility as someone in the field to help everyday people to get their level of security at least up to a certain level where we're not all doomed, you know. You know?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and I know you've definitely saved already a couple of asses here, including in your close friend circle, including me and some other friends of ours, right? It's always good to have someone like you around, because it's, like you said, it's a difficult domain. It's a complicated field where most of the times we don't really think about it that much. I haven't, certainly, and other friends haven't either.
And you don't want to think about it too much either.
No, that's why I just want to like take out my wallet and be like, here, Jimmy, take my money and make my place secure.
Exactly. Convenience negatively correlated. That's the thing. We don't want to have to deal with all these things, but the more sophisticated our systems comes, the more we're going to have to protect ourselves.
Oh yeah, and it's important.
Exactly.
And if I watch, sorry, continue.
If I watch kids these days, they grow up with TikTok, and man, I don't even want to begin to ask what their passwords are, bro.
Yeah, first of all that, and I think they're so unbeknownst to the world of tracking, to the world of like
realities, yeah.
Like they Snapchat, right? Snapchat is a big thing here in Luxembourg as well. I know kids who use it all the time. Like that feature where you can see, because I've used Snapchat once, right? Like
I know what you're gonna say,
bro. It's rough, because Snapchat has this feature where you can check where your friends are in real life, like real life locations. So if you want to see where your girlfriend is at right now, you know, she has her Snapchat turned on and her, you know, location notifications on, you can actually see where that girl is going right now. Like, and that's, if that is not crazy, if that is not absolutely bonkers, because I don't want the state or a freaking app to know where I'm at. If I'm taking a poop, I'm taking a poop, bro. It's, you know, it's my business. None of your businesses out there.
Trust me, your phone knows when in the day you go to have that poop. Best believe they do. But that's a different topic.
That's maybe for part 2. We're going into the conspiracies of like freaking iPhones and like ultra red pictures being taken every 6 seconds just to track and see what you're doing.
It's not a conspiracy. They tell you themselves. When you open an application, it asks you for permissions. It asks you for, on Android, it literally pops up. It asks you for permission to use your camera, to use your photos, to use your microphone, to use your like internet navigation.
Yeah.
Why does a calculator need permission to access the internet? Please tell me that.
Or my camera.
Or your camera, for that matter. But they only ask you that permission once. You can say that you want it to ask you always, but then certain functionality is turned off.
So That's why I recommend go on your general settings on your iPhone right now. Go on your general settings, go on notifications, and go through every single app that you have on your phone. And you can manually deselect all of these features. Like I've done that so many times. I have literally, and every single app on my phone, no single app uses my microphone, my camera. Only, of course, phone calls. Makes sense. But no other app uses that for me. Location tracking is turned off everywhere. They even have now features like advanced IP relay or whatever it is, right? Whatever they do, right? Like whatever kind of levels of security that I can implement to kind of safeguard protect my privacy, because my privacy should stay mine and mine alone. That's great. Like if we're talking about iPhones right now, I bet you like on Instagram, even though I have all notifications and things turned off, I will receive an ad about like the newest iPhone coming out in freaking November, like in a couple of minutes, right? Best believe. We have to, I mean, in a certain way, we are helpless to a certain degree if we want to use modern technology. And I know you're not a big Apple proponent, actually the complete opposite, I guess. But if we want to use beautiful iPhones like these, right, that are gorgeous and easy to use, it comes with a certain risk. But on the other hand side, it's important to protect you on any other layer possible. Correct, Jimmy?
Absolutely, yes. But on that point with the phone, it's not as black and white that I don't like Apple. Samsung, they do the same thing. I mean, Android is made by Google. It was just open sourced, and so that's what I like. But they all do the same thing. It would be naive to think that just Apple does these things.
But you don't
Samsung,
like Apple.
I just don't like Apple because of different reasons. Because of the closed system that they have, and the outrageous prices that they ask for their products.
It's like cold, bro. It's a cold.
I'm telling you, it is a cult.
So if Tim Cook, he says on the 1st of October every single year, my friends, get on your knees and start pulling down your pants because it's time for the new iPhone 16. I bet you not 80% of the world out there, they get on their knees, they pull down their pants, and they're like, 100%. I praise you, Tim Cook, get me that new iPhone.
100%.
Right?
But to be fair, that hype has been going down since Steve Jobs passed, because he was the mind behind all of that.
Do you think so? Do you think so?
Well,
I mean, hype, so. Yes, but how does a company make the type of revenue that Apple does with the hype going down? I think it's the opposite, bro. I think in terms of technology,
and excuse me for cutting you off there, what new product have come out since his passing?
I tell you what, new products.
The AirPod?
No. Like every single one who used to have an iPhone in the past needs to like throw away their fucking charging cables because they're not compatible with anything anymore on the newest iPhones. So it's like, fuck that shit.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the main things why also it's something I don't like. They closed their system so much that you have to buy everything for them. The Lightning ports was the only reason they don't use them anymore is because the EU banned them. The EU made sure that they have to be able to use USB-C. Mm-hmm. That's why they're doing it. Do you think they would do that just for that? Just for our convenience?
Well,
no way.
Well, it's an extra 6% revenue that they can like push upwards, right? And for $1 trillion company, that's quite a lot of fucking money. I guess that's why they do it.
Yeah. Well, with the USB-C, they essentially lose money, so to say, because everyone has a USB-C, and you don't have to buy the Apple USB, the Apple cable now.
That on another note makes sense. But I mean, I guess Apple, as like Tim Cook as a company, he was the one who brought it to $1 trillion company, right? So that he knows business behind, right? Like why is, for example, what was it? Was it not that with the iPhone 15 that came out, there was no charging cable included anymore? You had to buy it extra, or like they break apart the product itself, that you have to purchase the phone, and then you have the cable, and then you have the adapter, and then like those are all different sources of revenue that they want to increase on that.
So he's just milking it. He's squeezing every ounce of money out of the customer base
that's that he still can. That's big
corporate. Because there's no no new products coming, and that exactly proves my point. The AirPods.
Right.
No, it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's just
you're right. It's still a pretty phone.
It is a pretty phone, and it makes amazing pictures. I mean, I have friends that mock my pictures on the daily because they're like, "What are you shooting these pictures with?"
With your BlackBerry, with the place on.
But hey, yeah, I don't really care what phone I use anymore. But
Jimmy, I really, really, really enjoyed the last 1.5 hours. And didn't I tell you that like time, if you have a really good flow in the talking ways, it goes by really, really fast. And I kid you not, I could easily take you on another hour and a half without any problems. Because like I've been through 3 questions of the 10 questions that I've prepared, and I know I'm going to keep.
Really?
I know I'm going to keep the rest for another day. But before I leave you, like one thing I have to really and openly and publicly, I want to do this. I want to congratulate you for your growth and your progress over the last year, because it's really inspiring to see someone like you outworking himself and the competition on a daily basis, right? Like you uploading videos on your YouTube channel. By the way, Jimmy, do me a favor, plug where people can find you and reach out to you. And if you're in that nerdy space and you're like the type of like type of guy, you know, make sure to hit up Jimmy and like follow his channel, because it's a lot of nerd stuff happening over there. So Jimmy, plug yourself.
I mean, yeah, so I have a YouTube channel where essentially I document what I do on my path to becoming a pen tester. So I hack
beautiful word
machines.
So by the way, for those who don't know, Jimmy loves penetrating. He loves to test different ways of penetration, and it's a special form. It's a special way of, you know, going about life. So if you really want to, like same as Jimmy, know a little bit more about penetration and, you know, testing out ways, reach out to Jimmy.
So, pen testing. My YouTube channel is called Bite Sized Security.
I love you.
Byte. So that's Byte, BYTE, sized security. And on there, I just have videos of me hacking these machines. It's quite technical. Most people won't know too much what to do with it. But
it's interesting. It's really interesting to watch, though. I've watched a lot of videos of yours already. It's really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I gotta say. It's pretty cool. It's because I there's a very clear methodology, and I just basically essentially document what I do anyway, and just film it
and penetrate.
And so that's and so that's my YouTube channel, and that's essentially all you can find about me. But yeah. It's been going great. Like,
and I'm happy for you. And your channel has been growing, bro. Like I will definitely link down all of your the channels and your LinkedIn down below, like in the video description of this video on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcast. And just on this note, everyone listening out there, if you aren't yet, guys, what are you doing? Go to YouTube, go to Instagram, go to Apple and Spotify, and follow the Journey Beyond podcast on all of your favorite softwares and channels, so you can hear more of these super interesting, you know, interviews and topics and talks about penetration and testing and more penetration every single Saturday at 2 p.m. on your favorite channel happening out here.
Yeah, so on that note, I also want to add another thing. Basically, man, I mean, you gave me all the praise, but your podcast has been doing bits. You've been building something here, so I'm also very, very proud of what you've been doing, man.
Bro, it's
Keep
fun.
Doing it. Keep doing what you're doing.
I currently do it with absolutely that much financial interest. I'm doing it for the sole reason that this is something that I absolutely love doing, and I would even continue doing it for free if there would be no like potential to grow it into something bigger, right? Like that's just on another note. Like this, what we're having, we would anyways have it on a cigar somewhere in a beautiful hotel, right? So it's just like putting it on a camera, like making some interesting notes behind it and just publishing out there so we can always watch it for eternity happening, right? So yeah, brother, I really appreciate you and I thank you for that. There will be more talks coming like this. There will be a part 2, 3, 4. And as I mentioned it last time, actually a couple of days ago with Felix on his interview, our next round is actually not going to be over digital, but the next time that we get together will be the 3 of us somewhere in a really cozy location on my couch, and we're going to have an offline recording and have a lot of fun.
That's going to be great.
Chatting.
That's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that.
So that's where this is going.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I enjoyed this a lot more than I don't know. I didn't know what to expect. This was great. But that's also because we're just off camera, also very close friends. It's just the vibe, innit? But it was very fun. Thank you for having me.
No worries, man.
And I'm interested in knowing what these other 7 questions were, because we just flew through this time. And
well, ladies and gentlemen, then I guess it's time for you to tune in next time for the round 2 of Jimmy versus Tim. And the penetration games are on, people. Let's go.
Oh my God, you really need to stop that.
Bro, no, I love it. Whenever you become a pro pen tester, I will make you a big sign. He's like, Jimmy's. Like, whenever I'm going out for a drink with you, I'm like the guy who's like, Jimmy, my friend Jimmy over there, you know what he does professionally? He's a professional penetration tester. Bro, that's like the wingman move of the year. I kid you not.
If you do that,
do you see that stud of a guy over there, that sexy looking man of a human being over there? You know what he does? You know what he's really good at? Like really, really good at? He loves to test and find out different ways to penetrate.
Hey, are these my friends? God damn.
God damn it. Yes, they are your friends. Jimmy, I love you. Yeah. And everyone, this was like the longest outro ever. So thank you all for tuning in. Have a beautiful rest of your weekend, of your day, and see you in the next one. Peace.